Hey guys, I'm Samuel, and today we're talking about 432 Park Avenue. Yes, it's the troubled billionaire building that apparently everyone's talking about, well, some people are talking about. Recently got a lot of bad PR for essentially falling apart. For those uninitiated, 432 Park Avenue is one of the most expensive and tallest residential buildings in the world. Completed in 2016, it sold out pretty quickly, mostly to foreign buyers, with apartments selling for over $100 million. It had a fancy architect, Raphael Vignoli, who apparently modeled the building after a trash can. I guess it's a pretty fancy trash can. But what was marketed as the pinnacle of luxury quickly turned untrue once people actually started moving in. Turns out paying tens of millions of dollars for an apartment doesn't always guarantee quality. News broke out of residents unable to sleep in their own apartments because of all the noise and swaying, reports of flooding on multiple floors, elevators that kept breaking down, and a corrupt developer who colluded with contractors to cut corners and save on costs. After living there for 5 years, the billionaires decided to finally sue the developers of 432 Park Avenue for $125 million. So I read through the entire 43-page lawsuit to see what was happening, and these billionaires did not hide their displeasure in this lawsuit. This case presents one of the worst examples of sponsor malfeasance in the development of a luxury condominium in the history of New York City. What was promised as one of the finest condominiums in the city was instead delivered riddled with over 1,500 identified construction and design defects to the common elements of the building alone. I mean, I'd probably even be afraid for my life. What if the building just collapses one day and I die inside my apartment? Anyways, here are some of the most shocking structural issues that I found in the lawsuit. Number 1, noise and vibration. It's apparently so loud in the building with all the swaying that one resident had to move out for 19 months because they just couldn't take it anymore. Also, whenever the weather is slightly windy, there's constant creaking, banging, and clicking sounds. Residents also say that throwing garbage down the trash chute sounds like a bomb. Number 2, elevator malfunctions. Because the building is so tall, the elevators are programmed to slow down when there's high winds. But instead what actually happens is the elevators just completely shut down, trapping residents inside their apartments or not allowing them to go up to their apartments. Number 3, flooding and water infiltration. There's been multiple incidents of severe flooding and water damage because apparently there were some loose bolts found in the plumbing from shoddy construction. The first leak impacted the 60th floor and the second leak impacted the 74th floor, which caused water to enter elevator shafts, which halted 2 of the 4 residential elevators from service for weeks. 35 units, as well as common areas, suffered water damage. Number 4, during repairs, our contractor drilled through concrete and hit electrical wiring, causing an explosion which threw the contractor backwards several feet through the air. The arc flash caused an immediate power outage to some of the building's residential units and completely shut down air conditioning services to an even bigger portion of the building. Number 5, cracks in the walls. Residents complained about the highly visible cracks in the dry walls of many ceilings, highly visible cracks above doorways, highly visible cracks where walls meet the ceilings, and air and water leaks at windows. Now again, imagine paying tens of millions of dollars for an apartment just to find out your walls are cracked. In fact, the lawsuit states they found 104 structural issues, with 75% of them being life-threatening. But it's not just structural issues that have these residents complaining, it's also the poor management of the building in general. Number 1, collusion with the elevator suppliers. The residents found out that the developer paid a lower upfront cost for the elevators with their elevator subcontractor, Schindler Elevator Corporation, in exchange for a higher long-term maintenance contract higher than industry standards. What this means is that they could pay less for the installation of the elevators while shifting the higher maintenance costs to the residents, essentially offsetting the construction costs to the unit owners. Number 2, common charge increase. In 2019, residents received a 39% increase in their common charges. They suspect it's because since their building is literally falling apart, their insurance premiums rose 300% and they have to pay the difference. Number 3, a developer-controlled board. From 2016 to 2021, the resident board was fully controlled by the developers. The developer placed their own people on the board as part of the contract, which meant that residents couldn't legally take action to make any changes to the building. The developer-controlled board would gaslight everyone apparently, including number 1, frequent denials of responsibility, number 2, negligently performed remediation efforts that at worst caused millions of additional dollars in costs and outages of critical building systems, and at best largely failed to address identified defects. And number 3, even delaying or canceling elections to hold on to power to delay transferring power to the actual residents. Number 4, restaurant fee. When people bought their apartments, they were promised an in-house Michelin star restaurant that served free breakfast every day. The only caveat is residents had to spend $1,200 a year at the restaurant, which I mean isn't that bad. But as of 2021, the breakfast is no longer free, and unit owners are required to spend $15,000 to subsidize the restaurant's operations, a more than 1,200% increase. Number 5. Shady contractors. During repair requests, the developer would source their own contractors and consultants who were incompetent at best and shady at worst. One example is the collapsing railings on the drum floors. The drum floors are empty floors that allow wind to pass through and only hold mechanical machinery. But the residents discovered that the developer installed the cheapest railings possible, which have been, and are expected to, continue failing far before the warranty period. When asked to look into it, the recommendation from the developer's engineering consultant was to use duct tape to tie failing sections of the railings on the drum floors. The consultant recommended that Gorilla brand duct tape be used. Again, now imagine you're living in one of the most expensive buildings in the world, and you file a repair request, and the solution is to just use duct tape to hold pieces together. At least they recommended brand name duct tape. And number 6, out-of-pocket costs. Sick of the lack of cooperation from the building, residents had to shell out their own money for repairs and commission their own independent engineering report to analyze the building, which is now being used as the basis for this lawsuit. If reading this lawsuit taught me one thing, it's to ask people how they like living in the building before moving into somewhere. Developers clearly can be trusted, but 432 Park Avenue, don't sue me. I'm simply reiterating everything you just said publicly in your lawsuit. I think they're still awaiting trial, so I don't know the results yet of who's going to win the $125 million. But if I was an owner here, I would just sell and cut my losses. I mean, this is too much headache for me to do. Hope you enjoyed this video, and hope you like and subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks.